Shalom and welcome to another edition of Treasures of the Torah. I'm Pastor Matt McEwen. I want to thank you for joining us this week. Our Torah portion is called Vayishlach. We mentioned last week about Jacob and his vision of the ladder, Jacob's ladder, or as we say in Hebrew, Sulam Yaakov. And I told you that last week we weren't going to sort of get into future events, meaning this week's Torah portion, where we talked about a wrestling match. And this week, we're not going to talk about that either. I feel like a lot has been said about that, but rather, I want to bring up a treasure of the Torah this week that I mentioned to you last year, and Rabbi Shapira has mentioned to us many times. It concerns people's motivations. How many of us can attest to the fact that sometimes people seem like they intend to do one thing, but their underlying motivation is something that's vastly different? If we are honest with ourselves, we may even confess that we have been like that we sometimes will seem very innocent on the outside or having one particular purpose in mind. But if someone were to delve beneath the surface, perhaps they would see that our motivations weren't entirely pure all the time. And that's exactly what we have going on here. After the famous wrestling match, we have an incident where Jacob is approaching Esau, and Esau comes to him. And let me read it to you straight from the scripture so that I get it correct here. In verse 4 of chapter 33, it says this in the book of Genesis: "And Esau ran to meet him, and he embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him." Now, what's so interesting is there's a treasure, there's a clue in the Torah scroll that you won't get in a printed Bible. And that is the word here, Vayishlach, and he kissed him, has something interesting about it. What is interesting? What is the treasure of the Torah that we can mine this week? That word for "and he kissed him" has dots above it on a Torah scroll that is written by hand. What do these dots mean? I will tell you, they are not cantillation marks and they are not vowel points. As we know, Torah scrolls don't have vowel points, nor do they have cantillation marks. But we see that something is going on here that is a bit of a clue. It's a treasure in the Torah. Well, what can we gain from this? Rashi and the Midrash Rabbah both suggest that these dots are to let us know that there is an exception to a rule going on here, that there's something going on beneath the surface. And one famous rabbi says that these dots are to signify that this kiss is not how it appears, that it's not a kiss that Esau gives with all his heart. And that is one interpretation that we could take. That is a valid opinion. But as Rabbi Shapira likes to say, if you have two Jews, you have three opinions. And much of the fun of studying the Bible in Judaism is looking at the different opinions of the different commentators. After all, we say that the Torah, we refer to it as the Shevi'im Panim LaTorah, the 70 faces of the Torah. And so there are different opinions, different interpretations, different commentaries that we can glean from. So let me give you a bit of a more sinister interpretation. One interpretation by our rabbis actually says that the reason that this word for "and he kissed him" is highlighted by these dots above the word is to say that it was not a kiss at all, that Esau approached as if to kiss Jacob, his twin brother. However, what he really did was try to bite him on the neck, tried to attack him in such a savage way, to actually bite him on the neck. But what do our rabbis say? That the Holy One, blessed be he, in order to protect the righteous Jacob, caused his neck to become like marble, and the evil one's teeth was broken on it. The teeth were broken on the marble-like neck of Jacob. Now, this is a very curious story. Can we take this literally? Is this just a midrash? Well, that's for you to keep learning and studying and to decide for yourself. After all, as we say, there are many different opinions on these types of things. But something that we can all learn from this is that sometimes people come to us under the guise sometimes of peace or respect. How many times have we seen this with nations with regard to Israel, the modern state of Israel? Oh, they look very much like they have this offer of peace or this or that, but always underneath, we have to be wary of an attack. We have to be wary of the other shoe dropping, so to speak, as we say in English. Is a kiss really a kiss? Or is it an attack? Or at least on the lighter side, is the kiss truly, is it meant to be a kiss? Is it done with all the heart? Or is it, God forbid, like the kiss in the Garden of Gethsemane from Judas? We have to be wary, not only of others' intentions, we need to be on guard that the enemy not use us, that our intentions must always be pure and from the right state, from the supply of holiness and not from trickery. Thank you for joining me once again this week for the treasures of the Torah. If you'd like to learn with us in our yeshiva, you can go to shuvu.tv and you can register there. You can put in your application and go through the interview process to see if the yeshiva is right for you. And also, if you have not purchased and read Rabbi Shapiro's latest book, The Besorah According to COVID-19, go to goodnewscovid19.net and get it today. Thank you so much for digging with me into the treasures of the Torah. We will see you next week. Shabbat Shalom.